Thank you.
It's all right.
I'm going to call the meeting to
to
order, and it's 9:15, March 18, 2025, and we're going to have a roll call. Commissioner Mann is here.
Here.
And Commissioner Harvey, I think, is on the way. And so, for Mac, do you want to take the agenda item?
Yeah, the first item here is really just the commission training session we have. Deborah McKee was going to give the presentation today, right? Okay, and so we will turn the time over to you guys. Sorry for the delay there. We were hoping to get our other commissioner here. Let me pull up your PowerPoint slide, and then we will turn everything over to you with the clicker. Hold on. There you go. Where did it go? It was there a second ago. You saw it, right?
I did.
Okay. Okay, here you go, Deborah.
We're good. We can turn it
Oh, it's all right. It should shut off here in a minute.
Okay, well, good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for having us. I'm Deborah McKee. I'm the outreach manager for the Center of Rural Development housed in the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. I'm happy to be here in San Juan County in Monticello, where I live and love and play. I actually got my start in economic development right downstairs in the economic development office. So always happy to be here and share some information with you. So I'm here. We also have James Dixon, who's the Director of Community Grants for Center of Rural Development. And then I believe on Zoom, we also have Colette Cox, who's the Director for the Center of Rural Development. So she is attending virtually, I believe, as well. So I just wanted to say hello, good morning. We also have donuts in the corner. Make sure you get some of those. But I'm actually going to turn it over to James Dixon. He's the expert and the man with the knowledge. So
Okay.
pass it on to him.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here in San Juan County with you and to meet with you, distinguished members of the commission. Our intention here today is to help do some training for you, and training that will hopefully lead to a well-functioning county economic opportunity advisory board as well. Part of our responsibilities from the Governor's Office of Economic Development is to spread a little bit of wealth around to the rural counties so that they can make some decisions about economic development matters in their counties. And there's some requirements around that. And so this is what this presentation is really about. You being the leaders of the commission have final say and, order the directives and make the final plans. But we want to also introduce you to the responsibilities of the county economic development or economic opportunity advisory boards. Wish we had board members here because they could use this training. We hope that with help of Deborah that this information will continue on. Now, it's not like they haven't been functioning. It's more about let's make sure we're refining our training so that they are functioning to the highest level that services you as elected officials. So that's the intent here. So we do have a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll do my best to work through this. Great, here we go. And you're welcome to, interrupt me at any time, ask any questions as we go along. So a CEO board is created under Utah Code 63N-4-803, and it is a prerequisite for the counties in order to receive the benefit of the Rural County Grant and the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. So without this functioning board and it doing what it's supposed to be doing as an advisory board to you, we can't deliver some funds to you. Our preference is to be able to do this annually and give you some funds that will help you in your economic development planning and preparation. Oop, it's going to go reverse on that. Went too far.
Sorry.
Okay.
We have some people online that are like, hey, we can't see. We're here.
Okay.
And I'm backwards. Sorry.
Yes, let's hope
There you
it's
go.
some of our board
You're off
members.
and running.
Okay. All right. I think maybe, let's see, let's go back to one, slide number 2.
Sorry about that, James. Just
It's all good.
Roll up.
There we go. Okay. Okay, well, that's a good introduction. There we go. We just wanted to make sure that you are aware that this is written in code, Utah code. And the next one, the CEO board is formed in this way. It must be at least a body of at least 5 appointed members. And so this is an ongoing advisory board, much like a planning commission is. It's always in place. It's not a temporary board functioning occasionally, but it should be meeting regularly. So the code requires that there are certain representation on this board. You've got to have somebody from the county represented on this board. You have to have a representative of a municipality or that is within the county. Thank you. And somebody that represents workforce development. Another person appointed that would be a private sector representative. And when we're talking about a private sector representative, we're really most likely referring to somebody in the business sector who's a private business owner, somebody who has influence on the local economy. And then a member of the public who lives within the county at large, somebody at large. I just want to make sure that I'm clear about some of this appointment here, because we have an advisory board to the commission. It's probably best that we don't have a commissioner on the board. So, we're going to try to avoid the idea of a double vote. In other words, somebody appointed, you can do it, but it's probably better that the county representative isn't one of you.
So could that be our tourism director or visitor
Yeah,
services, someone like that?
yeah, sure. Somebody like that. Yeah, could be your county attorney.
Oh, okay.
Or somebody that like that. Yes.
In our case, I'm not part of the board, but I am part of the program.
Mhm.
So we do.
So I don't have a voting, but I
Correct.
do have. That's why my responsibility. We have assigned responsibility, and
Yeah.
that's one of my responsibilities.
perfect.
Too.
Yeah,
But I do not vote. I just help.
that's great.
Whatever we do.
That's great.
assist and things
That's
like
great.
that, right?
I'm not saying it's completely taboo that you, a member of the commission, is on the board, but it's just probably better that you separate the idea of a voting member on this board from
Yeah.
a voting member on the commission. Okay, attempting to avoid any undue influence over the board, so that they can act autonomously, but also give you recommendation. That is a perspective that you can then consider as commissioners. Okay. Now, this board doesn't have to only be of 5 members. It could be many more members if you'd like. But when it comes down to it, this board is going to be organized such that it will discuss economic development matters, make some plans, present those plans, and they'll make a vote on the activities that might be involved in those plans as they are presented to you. I will always come back to the idea of having myself served for many years on a city council and on a planning commission. This is very much like a planning commission, only with its concentration in economic development. So in the end, you have the responsibility to make the decisions over the use of these funds. But this advisory board has to be in place in order for that to happen. You can have a board of 12 people. It doesn't matter, so long as these 5 areas are represented. Okay, so when we're appointing terms, we're appointing, can you hear me okay? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. When CEO boards are formed and you're making appointments, they should be appointments for 4-year terms and staggered, much like your elections are staggered as well, right? So that when one 4-year term is up, that doesn't vacate everybody. You'll always have somebody coming and rolling over if you've got staggered appointments. Okay, and they are responsible for electing a chair and a vice chair every year annually. We encourage that a chair who is elected that is not elected more than 2 years consecutively. That's just an encouragement. You can do that. However, leadership in the chair position would probably serve you better if it rolls over every couple of years. If there's a vacancy that occurs in the middle of a term, it is your responsibility as commissioners to replace the position and fill the vacancy as soon as possible. And then that person that is assigned to the vacated position appointment finishes the term of the previous person, and then would have to be reappointed at the point of time that the original person was then assigned. Majority constitutes a quorum, and the majority of the votes constitute a recommendation of the advisory committee to the county legislative body. Because the CEU board is established by statute, it is written into the Utah law, it is required that they are subject to Open and Public Meeting Act. That means that annually they probably ought to be trained on what that means, number one. But also they have the same standards to live up to with regard to ethics and governance that you do. So that means that those meetings will have to be advertised, posted, and any conflicts of interest that might stand in the way of any discussion points, minutes, agendas would have to be recognized and called out. And of course, those things are, again, have to be recorded, and minutes need to be taken so that everything is transparent and open to the public. This program of having a county economic opportunity advisory board is based on 2 programs that we have, 2 grant programs that may affect your county and your communities. The first one is the Rural County Grant, and I'll explain what's going on with that one and your own history with the Rural County Grant. And the second one is the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. And so with regard to any other program economic development wise, if your committee, your advisory board has further discussions outside of these 2 programs, that would be up to you. But for us and the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, it's really all about these two programs. So they're really in place and have been formulated by statute to service the opportunities under the Rural County Grant and the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. So let me explain those a little bit to you. I'm sure you're familiar, but let's do a little bit more explanation here. Let's see. Further into the CEO board responsibilities here before I get into the programs of the RCG and RCOG. Here's what their basic responsibilities are. Each CEO board shall assist and advise the county legislative body on applications for the Rural County Grant or the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. Also, which projects should be funded by money from these grants, and they're responsible. The board is responsible for the preparation of annual reports and for the original application that you put in annually for the RCG, and on the occasion that you put in RCOG as well. They're responsible for those things. So they should be not only advisors, but they have some work to do as well. Putting in applications, helping with annual reporting, and being accountable to you for what happens with these grants. Okay, here we go. So the Rural County Grant is a $200,000 grant award that comes to you annually, so long as you have a functioning CEO board and that you give us an annual report from the past year's activities and use of funds from the RCG. That qualifies you for the next year's application of $200,000. And we bullet point the three very broad descriptors of economic development as we see it here, and what these funds should be used for with RCG money. They should be used for business recruitment, development and expansion, workforce training and development, or infrastructure, industrial building development, and capital facilities improvements for business development. So obviously, the Governor's Office of Economic Development is all about economic development. That means we'll help you understand that there's a distinct difference between economic development, in our point of view, and community development. Sometimes they cross paths, but hopefully these three bullet points help you understand that we would like for the county to be thinking about business recruitment, development and expansion, workforce training, and then infrastructure that improves business opportunities. Okay. And the second grant is the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant. This is not a pass-through grant. This is a separate and competitive application for additional money for the same purposes. If I were to roll back, we would say, whoops, it's not going to be that way. For the RCOG, Rural Communities Opportunity Grant, these three areas of description for the use of funds is the same. Okay. But it's intended for economic development uses that are probably more intense and focused, and for a greater amount, up to $600,000. And these, again, are competitive grants. That means if you, San Juan County, is putting in an application for the Rural Communities Opportunity Grant, you could win an award. However, you're competing against others who are also competing against a limited pool of funds that is granted by the legislature annually. Last year's pool of funds was approximately $5.4 million. We had 12 awards against that $5.2 million or $4 million. This year, I believe it's $5.25 million. We have some other funds under the umbrella of what we call the Rural Opportunity Fund that sometimes we can pull into the RCOG fund, but that is at the discretion of the executive director of GOYO and doesn't always happen. So this coming fiscal year, FY26, we anticipate approximately 5.25 million would be available as the overall pool for the RCOG funding. This means also, because there's a limited fund, that it is competitive, and that means somebody's not going to win something. Right? So out of those, we had 30 applications last year. And from 30 applications, we had 12 awards, just to give you a picture of how this goes. Oh, well, who are the winners? We're going to talk about that and why they kind of rise to the top and end up receiving awards. So these are the two programs that your CEO board should be concentrating on. And what we want to emphasize here is that they should be thinking about this, meeting about this, talking about this, and advising you, not just once or twice a year, but all year. Here's an example. As I told you before, the CEO board has responsibility for annual reporting. Annual reporting for this past year, FY25, is going to open up on May 15th, and it'll be open and through July 31st. That means your CEO board should be meeting and talking about and arranging their report for the use of the funds that you received from this past year. So, I mean, that's probably not, just a half-hour meeting on a random day in a whatever month. They should be working on that right now. Okay, criteria for qualifying for RCOG and RCG. Again, we've talked about this. The board has to be organized and functioning. They're responsible for annual reporting. And I've got here, and you can read this list here of the things that are required in an annual report. We'll leave that information with you, and we'll get more printed information for you as well. But you can see that it's comprehensive, and there's a level of accountability that we'd like to know how the funds were used and who got the funds, whether they were passed through, whether the county itself used the funds, or any combination of things. And then once that is done, and that board is formed also and is functioning, then we know that you will qualify for these other things. The county legislative body must submit a formal application every year. So that's the third criteria for the rural county grant. So functioning board, annual reporting, and an application every year. All partly responsible, the responsibility of your CEO board. Let's just look at these 3 bullet points here on this application here. It's what will they be suggesting here? It's anticipated economic development projects and activities. In other words, what are you going to do with $200,000, a proposed budget, and the expected deliveries and outcomes. Now, they are going to advise you and say, this is what we think we can do with this $200,000 in this next fiscal year. But it's not their final say. They're your advisors, okay? So you can say, that is fantastic, great planning, let's implement them. But you may also say, oh, well, we don't like this. We think the funds will be better used over here. We do like that, let's implement that. You are the final ones to make the decisions about the use of the $200,000. In the end, though, when you're making an application, what you decide needs to be reflected in the application. So in spite of their advice to you as to how the funds should be used, it should be presented to you early enough that you can make some decisions around that as to whether you want to implement it or adjust it, make some adjustments and changes. And then in the final application, that's what we should see when we receive it at GOYO for review, is what your decision was. Okay. Because this is, only 3 or 4 years old, we do have some CEO boards that are have some strife with their commissioners and vice versa, right? Others function beautifully and have got it all figured out. Others, are at loggerheads occasionally. I just want to emphasize that you are the ones that make the final decisions based on their recommendations. But if you don't agree with their recommendations, hopefully you're engaged enough to know that there are activities under those 3 parameters that this money should be used for. And you can make those adjustments at the time of application. Do you have any questions on that?
No, I want to make a comment. This is my 3rd year working with the board, and I think they do an amazing job, and I see the process of how they, decide on the money and things like that, and things are brought to the commissioners here, and we, approve. And so I think, we have an amazing board. We have representative for each community, each of the cities, and we. So I'm amazed that we just an example. About 2 years ago, we had so much money allocated to help the business, and we got over $1 million request.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the hardest thing to be in the room as you watch the decision being made.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure every county needs it, but it seems like for us we are so needy.
Mm-hmm.
I think was one of the hardest things I had to do is just to keep watching, because it'd be nice to have more kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
Anyway.
So I really, truly appreciate that, because when we give you funding from the state and give you some limited parameters, broad, but within certain things, you have to make some decisions around that, and sometimes that means deliberating over who could use the money and where the impact could be greatest, meaning that someone else may not get that, right? Because the pool is limited of funding. You're in the same circumstance we are with RCOG as you in the use of your RCG funding, right? And how you distribute it and use it. And it's not easy. I understand that, but thank you. I know for a fact that over the last couple of years, San Juan County has used the money very, very well, distributed it very well into those companies and businesses that will make an impact. And you're thoughtful about the use of the funds, and we're very pleased with how you are using the money.
And I like how our county has it where they have one of the commissioners to work with them. So I attend all the meetings, all the projects that they have, like trainings. Mm-hmm. We have amazing training programs. And so I even though I'm not a board member, but I do get to participate and know what's going on. So
yeah, it's great. And we're glad you're there. Thank you so much for your contribution to the economy of San Juan County. More opportunities to come, for sure. We want to share with you a couple of examples of projects that are happening across the state, not only here, but in other places too. This second one, Junior Entrepreneur Program, as a youth, attend business seminars, complete business plans, and cultivate business ideas. That comes out of Emery County. This is their own creation. Thinking that they wanted to educate junior high school and high school students on the principles of business and entrepreneurship. And so they're starting them very young. We had a great presentation from them a couple months ago when we visited them in our 24 in 24 tour, and had some presentations by young entrepreneurs, which is partly funded by the RCG money that they receive, partly from that $200,000. Is great success. Other? Yeah, okay, great. Mm-hmm. Others are partnering with the college and the custom fit program to deliver a few more bucks to businesses as they grow, and other training, especially workforce training. This last one on this bullet point here is the training and leading to certifications and licensures. One county in particular saw the need to have more certified transport and truck drivers. And so they put some money towards subsidizing the training for CDL licensures. And, another county was doing something similar, but using the funds to develop more contractors in their area, construction contractors, because there was a lack of them. So you can see that was probably some good use of funds, and I think those are programs that will continue to go on. A couple of others. Under the business recruitment and development and expansion, here's some examples. Some mapping software that was purchased in order to identify best places for businesses to be located, and also for planning for economic development. Business marketing and advertising subsidies, money that would go towards generally Main Street businesses to help them market themselves a little bit better, and to maybe even enhance their storefronts if they are a retailer with a canopy or a sign or something like that. Could possibly win an award for enhancement of their facade or signage, something that improves their marketing opportunities. Regional business summits, those are kind of common throughout the state of Utah, but we don't mind the use of these funds for those purposes in workshops and summits, just so long as you're not spending all $200,000 on your business something. That would be an amazing summit for sure. Historic downtown tenant improvements. I think that if you were to visit Vernal City, you would see significant impact that's happening on their once dead Main Street. Revitalization, and they're using the RCOG and the RCG to enhance their downtown in a tremendous way.
And it's beautiful, though.
It is beautiful.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, really coming along, and they're using a lot of these funds. Other community, and I'm thinking of Tooele County in particular on that last bullet point, is community site-ready planning, and this was in cooperation with EDC Utah and their business recruitment efforts and pulling businesses into their county, but they had to make sure that they were site-ready. Places for those businesses to build, places for them to grow, industrial parks, and things like that. Basically developed and ready to lay down the structures that these new businesses needed. So they've used funding for site-ready planning. Let's see, project examples under the category of infrastructure and capital facility improvements for business development. Business innovation centers, we have some of those developed. We have rural co-working and innovation spaces that have been created with this grant and anticipate others and more. We even just talked about that in a meeting yesterday, hoping to see more development in the co-working spaces and business center spaces. Certainly can use rural county grant and rural community opportunity grants for things like places like that, for people to come, grow their businesses, and make business happen, or if they just need a place to work outside of their kitchen table, places like that. Subgrant for fabrication business for new machinery. That's not uncommon. In fact, San Juan County is doing a little bit of that, helping to businesses grow by helping them purchase critical industry manufacturing equipment, right? So you know about that, right? There's the development of an agri-park that's happening in Juab County. That's under development, use of RCG and RCOG funds. And that attempt also is happening up north as well in Box Elder County. So hopefully food security is under that umbrella, the idea of being able to process our own meats and foods here in the state without shipping to another state and back in. So there's some creative thinking happening under each one of these three categories here, and thought we would share some examples with you. Let's see a couple of other examples. We do have some things developing in the way of industrial parks, which is really, really great around the state. We're seeing more and more of that in rural Utah. And we're also incentivizing through other programs, not just this program, but other programs to have businesses that are coming into the state establish themselves in rural counties rather than on the Wasatch Front. And so that's something that we want you to be maybe thinking about too. Who would be ideal to bring into San Juan County that is a good employer, that maybe in industry or manufacturing, whatever sector they might be in, that can make a real impact.
One of the things we've been working with a group is housing is a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with 47G, and they want to bring a type of an industrial park type of thing with having all the minerals that we have here. But we are looking at the first step, which would be to secure, the ability for us to have housing. And so we have been meeting with things like that. And so, and they're very excited to bring something to San Juan County, and so I think we've been working with them for a year and a half or 2 years, trying to do things. And they have brought some things like business development class was one of the things, a program that we work with Talia. They brought everybody from the governor's office to kind of from every department, somebody came and we spent a day here and inviting people that had small businesses and things like that. So we have an amazing director. Talia is really good about very resourceful and very qualified to work on this. So
grateful that Talia is working with you.
Yeah, I mean, we are feel so grateful and blessed.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And we absolutely encourage those other partners, 47G, EDC Utah, any other organization that might help you make plans and bring in opportunities to you. Absolutely, we want you to do that. This is not exclusive to us. If you've got good partners, solid partners that are going to contribute to your economy, we want to be partners with them.
Do you know the thing that I find out when I became a commissioner, that you go up north and people have no idea of our situation here in San Juan County. So by bringing people to the county is what's helping us, because then they know where we are.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's kind of hard to travel and go for everything, but it's nice when they come and they discover this place, and also the reality you know, when they first came, they came ready to have the Navajo Nation sign up all these proposals they had, but
Yeah.
they don't realize it takes
Right. You
Yeah,
got a different environment, different culture. You got
Yeah.
different
different rules of the
opportunities,
government.
different
Yeah, and
different
so
assets, all of those kind of things. And we find that across the state. We've got 29 counties in the state of Utah. 24 of them are rural, and I can swear to you that every single one is is unique.
Yeah.
They are not the same by any means. So your assets and opportunities are going to be completely different from anybody else across the state. And so we recognize that. It's partly why we've arranged our organization to have representation here with Deborah McKee in your area all the time. She lives and works here.
And she had work you know, with,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
she
right.
had work here, so we very excited to have her.
Yeah. But she's the go-to gal
Yeah.
if there's anything that needs to be related to us and Goyo. She's our connection, or she's your connection for us.
Now, yeah, we had some plans for meetings, and now the legislature is over, so we'll be able to start doing more things
Yeah.
together. And
For sure. Great. I've almost got this wrapped up, but I want to share a couple of things here. Early on, I introduced the idea of what's the difference between community development and economic development in our point of view. So we'll put down a couple of scenarios here, and hopefully this will paint the picture for you about what we mean is the difference. So I'm just going to read these to you, okay? Scenario 1. A county needs to upgrade its electrical power grid to service its community. Its primary intention is to replace aging infrastructure and to secure redundancy to protect against power outage. This will require upgrades to transmission lines and displacement from poles to lines buried underground. The county and its communities, residents and businesses alike, will generally benefit from the improved electrical infrastructure. Compare that to scenario 2. The county needs to upgrade the electrical power grid. 2 manufacturing companies are expanding their businesses, requiring more electricity for new buildings and equipment operation. This will require upgrades to transmission lines and displacement from poles to underground lines. These companies are within a mile of each other, and upgrades along a common corridor will deliver the power both need to operate and expand. Both companies also estimate they will need several new employees due to business expansion. So if we're comparing those two scenarios, this is what we would see. Scenario 1, the generalized benefit of the new electrical infrastructure would be considered community development, even though it will likely have a positive ancillary effect on local businesses. In this case, the county should use other resources, not RCG and RCOG funding. Under scenario 2, the new electrical infrastructure will directly affect business growth and employment opportunities, improving the tax base, personal incomes, and discretionary spending. This would be considered economic development and a proper use of RCG and RCOG funds. Okay. Any questions about that?
Good scenarios. Does Amazon need a new place to put a warehouse?
I'm sure they do, right?
It has to be
Land.
nuclear power.
New
That's
power
right.
and roads.
Yeah.
A couple 100,000 square foot building. We got
Yes,
some employees
yes.
ready to go.
That's
Some
right.
land ready to go.
That'd be great. We put these examples out for you to consider the difference between a community development project. Obviously needs to happen, right? But in scenario 2, we can clearly see that an impact of use of these funds would directly affect personal incomes, business growth, and business development overall. And so there we go. That we wanted to make sure that that was delineated and understood. We get this all the time, what's the difference between community development and economic development. And so we do our best to help delineate it. We still have great challenges with the idea that, well, if we build the electric infrastructure, then the businesses will come. But that's kind of speculation rather than planning, right? And so we're not going to be looking at the speculative sides of things. We're looking at what you've really got as an opportunity coming down the pike. So when I introduced early on what's the difference between the winners and the losers in RCOG grant writing, it's typically on this line. It's typically on the idea of, well, we've got the idea of this that we need to have solved: sewer, gutter, water, flood control, electricity, things like that. But they don't really have a plan for business growth. And so we see an application that says, we need this, and we think that in time, businesses will positively be affected. Those are the ones that typically don't get funded through RCOG. But if we see a well-planned, thought out grant that is written for the purpose of business development, workforce training, and the like, then you're going to get some consideration for an award. Your most recent award was in 2024 from FY24 for some economic development research. It was an award for what, 50,000, 75,000? Yeah. So it was, it was very narrow and focused, but the committee saw that it was could be very important for your future planning, and so we awarded that. We assume that it's getting done or almost is done, and so we'll be looking to issue your final reimbursement soon on that. What we do on RCOG is pay out 90-10. We pay you 90% up front, and as the project is completed, then we will reimburse you the final 10%. The RCG comes through to you 100% up front, so long as you've met your requirements of your functioning CEO board and your annual reporting and application. So, have any questions for me?
How many we have in the board?
That's a great question. I don't know the number. I think we have
I want to.
seven that are there, and then we have 2 new that are
Okay.
That's great. Great.
And then we do meet regular. I know we meet sometime more often and sometime, I don't know, you can tell how.
Yeah, so we meet quarterly right now, and then when it comes to the grant time, we have 2 additional meetings that we set up. And then if we need to, we'll set up an additional one for base camp. But our regular meetings are done for help us prepare for the reporting. And we're actually using our board also to help drive some economic development decisions for the county as a whole, because the board is made up of different people representing different areas. I think that's one thing that we really changed this year. We're really trying to have more input in how we're moving forward with a lot of the projects we're doing.
That's great. Well, we appreciate your functioning board. You are an example. Some of the uses of your funding have just been really, really impactful, and we're really grateful for it. We can call out San Juan as a great example to the rest of the state. So we appreciate that. Okay, great. That's what I've got for you. Happy to answer any other questions that might come up. We will get you this literature, which is complements the PowerPoint that you've got. I just have to make some changes to this because the legislature just last week passed a bill that will change some of these numbers.
It was included in our packet, so we have it in our
Yeah,
packet.
you've got this, but we're going to send you something new and fresh.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
So what does it really change?
It was just the
Number-wise.
county classification populations
oh.
were changed. It did
Yeah,
not
that's
affect
true.
San Juan County, but it affects a couple of other counties across the
Right.
state. So that means we have to go and interject
Yeah, it's true.
that into
Okay.
here because it does affect matching funds when it comes to RCOG.
Right.
There's some requirements based on the size population of the counties. So that will be inserted here by the end of the week, and we'll get you fresh literature. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Well,
It is
So-
10:05. We've got Commissioner Harvey on the way. He was leaving Blanding about 9:42.
He's right there.
so
Perfect.
there she is. Do we
All right.
make a?
Now we need a motion.
Do we need to make a motion to
Enter into executive session.
enter into a close executive section?
Thank you.
So let me make sure we get this right.
Chair Brian. Oh,
Okay,
you guys,
I need a motion to enter
Just
into a
one.
closed executive session to discuss the character, professional
Does anybody wanna make a motion?
competency, or physical mental health of an individual, and strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably
Thank you.
imminent litigation as permitted under Utah Code 52-4-205.
So I'll make a motion to enter into a closed session for the discussion of character, professional competency, mental or physical health of an individual.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye. So